are at our last stop on our tour today in coastal LA, looking at some of the intact landscapes and ecosystems along the coast. What you see behind me is a vast area of fairly intact coastal sand dunes, and it's mostly it's off limits, generally speaking. As you can see, there's a big fence behind me, but there is a trail that goes around the whole dune complex, and the only time when you could actually go inside is if you sign up to volunteer for a restoration work day where you pick up garbage and pull non-native invasive weeds. But anyway, this is a really interesting story as to why this is intact and protected here. Originally, there was a neighborhood of beach houses here for much of the first half of the 20th century, I think from the 1920s to the 1950s. But as LAX expanded and got bigger and more flight paths, the sound of the planes going overhead for the residents was so unbearable that they complained so much that the airport basically agreed to buy them out. Okay, and once they were bought out, their houses were basically torn down. And because there was a lot of intact sand dune vegetation, there were endangered species that were not found elsewhere. Particularly, they found an El Segundo blue butterfly in these sand dunes. It's found nowhere else. So therefore, even though I think they may have had plans to expand the airport, they couldn't build on it. You can hear the airplanes. The fact that you can hear the airplane is why these sand dunes are still here. Okay, so the vegetation that you see here includes a lot of the same kinds of plants you'd find in the coastal sage scrub. This is California sagebrush. There are quite a few lupine wildflowers. In a future video, we're going to do a video specifically on wildflowers. But lupines are one of the most abundant, showy wildflower. They're usually purple. Another wildflower you can find here is something called sand verbena. You find a lot of atriplex, which is a salt bush, and several others that are adapted to the very harsh conditions of this sandy soil. There's not much nutrients in here. They're also adapted to the constant wind, the lack of moisture, because when it rains, the water just trickles through this very loose sand. So anyway, to sum up, this is an intact sand dune landscape that is still here. Has everything to do with the fact that we're hearing these planes overhead. Okay, so with that, we're signing off, and go and explore your world.